Dzień dobry Państwu, witam serdecznie na premierowym pierwszym przeglądzie portfolio dla architektów krajobrazu, na premierowej Arenie Krajobrazu w Poznaniu, po raz pierwszy w Polsce, Taina Suonio z Finlandii, autorka projektów nagradzanych na Chelsea Flower Show, autorka projektu, który niedawno był prezentowany na konferencji prasowej w Londynie, zapowiadającej edycję Chelsea Flower Show 2020. Macie jedyną niepowtarzalną szansę rozmawiać z autorką, która za kilka miesięcy będzie prezentowała swój ogród na Chelsea Flower Show w Londynie.
I don't know how much you know about myself, but I recognize that Tomek was saying Chelsea Flower Show. So last year was my first ever own Chelsea Flower Show garden at the Chelsea, and this year I will have my second one. But I have been altogether working at Chelsea 16 years with the different designers. Joe Thompson will be here today later on. 1 year I was on her team with the Professor Nigel Dunnett, Andy Sturgeon, and so on. So on that sense, I have quite a lot of knowledge of design as well, my background of designer. But linking to nature and design is my passion because I'm a researcher at the University of Helsinki as well. And that is the combination which I think is quite important. And before this morning I came here, we have a very good talk about that, how plants and nature and biodiversity work together. And when I've looked through these 6 designs, what we are going to talk, I was very much looking those informations as well. I was sent details of 6 different designs, and I looked them through, and I was thinking, you know, the design, all of the designs, first of all, were very interesting, and I'm extremely happy that so many of you designers have made that effort even to sending them for the Tomek, and they will be, you know, I'm able to learn about them as well, because it's telling always the background of your culture, your climates, and so on. In this project, it was about creating a green roof in a city center, and from the client's point of view. And it was first just a normal, you know, nothing. There was basically nothing which I have understood from this design. And they created this rooftop heaven. And the clients for whom this has made wasn't sure about this design beforehand. They saw that. So I looked the structure because one of my passion is I'm a researcher regarding of green roofs and greenering cities, University of Helsinki. So obviously for me the green roofs are something what I'm very much interested, not only parks and gardens but green roofs as well. And I have learned that that is the future where we are more and more, when we are building new houses, we are using a rooftop as a part of the whole block design. Are you, by the way, able to understand me? You are. And don't speak too fast? No. If there is any questions, don't hesitate to ask, because I sometimes use odd words. I have lived 13 years in Northern Ireland and I learned horticulture there. So I use words which are not maybe meaning anything to you. So don't hesitate to ask. You know, when I was looking at this design, I was very pleased to see that this garden, even it looks very simple, there is a lot going on. And I know from the fact that in future, more and more people, they think that the roof gardens are very important in many sense. On that sense, when you get older, even your park isn't far away. It could be just it's 300 meters or so, but it's too far away for you as elderly people. But when you have a roof gardens like this, where you can walk and enjoy, that will bring the quality to your life. So in many sense, you know, I hope to see when we design cities like in here in Poland and Boston, that we create something like this. The plant selection is always important. As my background, where I see is bringing not only aesthetic values to gardens and designs is important, but that we support biodiversity and nature as well. So I do understand there is a problems always combining, maintenance and money, and there are challenges regarding of that. But bringing plans which will support biodiversity in cities is more and more important. So sometimes you have to think that it's not only that it looks pretty, or the way how we used to be thinking looks pretty, but we have to think that this garden, not only it gives something for the people who use that, but the nature around that area as well. Because if there is nature, if there's butterflies and bees, the human bee will be more happy as well. We enjoy those places more as well. So regarding of that, so I was very pleased to see that these plants are, that's very rich plant selection, and they are easy to maintain, and there is color as well. And if we look this has been built there already. Like I say beforehand, the client wasn't sure when they saw the design first that will it work or not. And to be honest, when I was looking these design pictures as well, I would not have been totally sure that it will work or not. But as we can see here, it has worked. And giving a place for the shady area there, I hope I'm able to show you. No, I wasn't. The shade, where is this canvas, is very good as well. I'm sure your summers are very hot. Our summers in Finland, they are very hot. And when you're rooftop, where the temperature can get as plus 70, it's important that there is shady areas as well. So that's a good point. Obviously, this picture, what we see here on the left side, it just has been taken when the garden has been made. So the plants are very young, very small, but in 3-4 years, we can see the big difference. As well, we can see, because this is wooden garden, or there's a lot of wood used in the decking and all that, it looks somehow too strong. And maybe in some cases, I would have some color, painted something, but you can do that later on as well. You can add a color to this garden by painting some part of maybe the wooden structure. But coming years, I'm sure this wood panel, it will change, it will be more gray and more easier to eye. Because you don't have winters, you didn't have proper winter this year, you didn't get snow. I don't think what kind of challenge that would be for you to maintain that during a winter, where you would put the snow if you would get there a lot of snow. So those are the questions you, as a designer, when you design green roofs, you have to always think as well. Will I be able to use that during a winter? And is that roof able to carry all the snow weight? Obviously, those are the main questions when you ask from yourself and your architecture that if that is possible. But overall, I think this is very, very nice presentation. So can you put the next slide? I was really hoping to see the team members here as well to come and talk about the designs for me. So I would understand more what is behind of there. It's, it's on that sense it's difficult. Did this garden bring any ideas for you? Have you done roof gardens before, or is that a quite new thing here for you as well? So this is totally different type of project, and like we can see, it's a quite big one, and it's private property. And there's a very strong design in this garden as well. The plant list is huge. It's very rich, and I'm very taken by that. It means that whoever owns this garden either have to personally be very passionate about looking after the garden, or have a gardener, or let this garden to grow to be a wee bit wild one. So I'm very, very interested to see, and which very much warmed my heart is I can see that there is salix. You maybe all know that nearly 200 pollinators are depending of some species of salix family. So using this type of garden, very biodiversity supporting plants and trees, which help birds, the nest and so on, is very good. There is a water feature as well. And the water feature in private gardens is a challenge always. How you maintain that, how you create that, what you are trying to achieve with the water feature. Are you trying to use that for your private purpose, or is that just a decorating thing as well? But the proportion for the water feature and comparing the rest of the garden, I think is right. I think it is very good, because it's easier to maintain the bigger water feature than the smaller one. That's my experience. But if you have a children and you have water feature, then you always have to remember somehow secure, take care that the small children can't get there by themselves. That they, or if they go, they can get out there as well. So that is something what is good to remember always. Near where the house is and these walking areas, there is half surface. So that's very good. There is a structure. There is a good body in this design. There is a structure. And you can see that as a whole, it must be quite a very talented designer as well, thinking that for the family and for this use. And obviously knowing the client very well, knowing that they want having a greenhouse, knowing that what there is children, and a very good talk between the client and the design. And using gravel as the covering of the surface is very good. Because when you have something on top of your soil, it reduces of weeds coming. Weeds and weeds. In this case, I would say the plants what you don't want that area. From my point of view or other side, I think a lot of native plants which will come there by the wind are good, because they normally bring the pollinators and so on. But if you want to keep this garden looking like this, then it's good to use something which will cover the soil as well. There are strong colors, very strong colors used in the shrubs and the trees, which is good as well. You have a long dark autumn season here and the winter as well. And we can see these pictures in here. I don't know how much later these pictures have been taken after when this garden has got ready. But for me, it looks very, very good. And I can see in a couple of years' time, it will be looking even more like homely. And it's amazing to see that the idea, the design has come out so well as well. It's not only that you have drawn, or the designers have drawn pretty pictures, but they have turned out working as well properly. And having space for the family and friends come together in this type of garden is very good. It's very simple way how they have done this, fireplace area, but it's working. It's working. I'm sure that they have a lot of good times in there. And creating this water feature, it must be quite challenge with the big rocks. For me, it is quite strong message without having so much plants there. I would maybe add some water plants, softening that up a wee bit, making that more softer. But otherwise, it's stunning work. And the sound of water running is very important as well. and really well done greenhouse. Easy to maintain, easy to grow things. So in this portfolio, there is quite many different type of gardens, and I was actually quite surprised to see that they, in one person, how the one group has been able to show so many. I really like this design. It's very modern, and the garden is by itself, the space isn't so big, so they have been able to include a lot of things going on in this design. And for me, it really works. How the colors together with the house and some structural things are combined, how they come together, it really works. And this half surface, even there is a lot of that. It's not too strong because they have been, the designer has been, or the group has used wood. I went through the plant list, and I was thinking that there is area which I would like to see some softer plants. They are very, these are very good, strong perennials, but there isn't really anything which would support biodiversity in that garden. So I would either take some shrubs away and add meadow, or use and salix, which would support biodiversity. But otherwise, I think it will work well. It is quite easy to maintain as well, which is important. And I like that area where you can relax on your hammock, and that is very good. As well, having even the small water feature like they have in design, it works very well. The water is important in the garden because it supports biodiversity. Many pollinators and birds are depending on having a water in your garden. So, and that is safe, that is easy to look. As well, having that area for the family, for the barbecue, it's very good. I'm not sure if that barbecue would work on that sense that you would make food on there. So it's good that you would have to have a different, like a grill, adding to this design. I'm sure that's something. And this garden maybe isn't most child-friendly. So it's quite modern, but it depends what kind of children you have. And if you don't have children, then this is exactly lovely, lovely garden to have. So I think the way how the structure is working, how you can access the garden is very good as well. And there was this big park in Central Park in Poland. And parks are actually quite difficult to design. They are, because you have to think very differently when you design parks, or if you design private gardens, or if you design roof gardens. In this case, I think it has been very smartly used, this area. It's narrow, which is difficult always as well to be designing, and long. But there are these good wooden, this is the other project actually, wooden areas, or the areas where you can have a seat next to flowers. It's an easy park on that sense that you can, just if you have a meeting with somebody or you are walking past from place to A to B, this would be a nice area to walk through. You feel very safe there. There's nothing really special on that sense, on this design, but it would work still. As a public area, public park, it would work. And this other one, what is a public area as well, I love when I see that there are seats next to the plants. And we know as a fact, when there is a greenery surrounding yourself, your reaction to area, it's much more positive. Your stress level will go down. You react differently. And so seeing that they are using these rich plants combination and having a seat in front of that is very good. And they are easy to maintain. They are not so wide, these planting areas, that they would be difficult to maintain. Obviously, using a lot of grass is a trend at the moment. It's a very much trend. But combining that together with the other plants, I think it works. And having trees which will give a shadow is very important as well in cities. Using different levels, not only trees or shrubs, but using perennials and shrubs and trees is very important. And in here we can see the other way as well. Only thing is that which took my interest was that they are letting, for me, this is more like a walking distance where you wouldn't have cars at all. So I hope at least the speed limit is quite low. So when the cars are passing you, you feel safe. But otherwise, I think it's good design again. There's a private garden where I was surprised to see so big area given to lawn. I would maybe put, I know it's very cheap and easy to maintain on that sense, but actually the lawns aren't very easy to maintain. To have a good quality lawn takes a lot of time, a lot of energy, and a lot of money as well. So instead of having this just lawn, I would maybe have that as a meadow, or having partially meadow. Then it would give more depth to the design. It would be, or you can have, combining that. You could have spring bulbs there or autumn bulbs, but I think it's quite a big area to give in this garden to lawn. Otherwise, I like to see this the layers of trees and shrubs, and it's very, very nicely designed garden. And in this point of view as well, if you would have a lawn there partially, I think it would work very well. And because these plants which are used are very ornamental plants. So yes, I think it's important to think otherwise as well. But having wood and concrete combining together works very well in this design. Is there any of those designs what you have seen your favorite so far? What kind of feelings they create on you? That is always important when you see designs. Obviously, it's quite different when there are pictures than in reality. So like the first one when we saw the design and then the reality, and the other one, it's very important. Then it gives you better understanding of what you can create with the plants. In here, the designer has been using a lot of strong shrubs and grasses again. It is a big area to be designed, and obviously what is very important is to think maintenance as well. Historical point of view and the houses surrounding. Because when you create a garden or park, you should link that always the area surrounding it, linking the garden, the things in the garden to color scheme or structure of the house or outdoor building, so that they talk each other's. So the garden would be part of that whole area, not just that you can have very, very pretty garden, but if that is wrong for the area or the house, it feels wrong. It doesn't talk to yourself, or those don't talk each other's. So it's very important then when you have something like that. And like I said earlier on, designing public parks is very difficult. It is. Making them safe, making them easy to access, making that you can use really those areas, that you can find, every time when you go, you can find something new in there. So I think in here, they have managed to create something which, depending which way you look at, where you come, or if you are tired, or if you're just walking through that, or you are with your friends, you are able to achieve those. So very clever. But for me, it's always the question of the maintenance as well. Are they really able to maintain this area? The quality of that? Would there be the chance that somebody will break something, or, those are things what you have to think as well when you are creating green areas. I really like this where they have used on those rocks or benches. I think I remember that they were made of rocks, or are they made of wood? That there is like this hard surface in both sides, because when you have that, when the people sit somewhere, we know that they use their feet. And if you would just have a turf there or grass, that would, quite soon, it would look very untidy. But when you have this hard surface, it always will look maintained. And it's really, because if you would have a meadow or turf there as well, somebody who's cutting the lawn would accidentally maybe hit those seating areas, and they would very soon look very not maintained. So that's why I like the idea as well, using half a surface on the front of the seating area. And they very cleverly has used this lighting there. The other designs, I didn't see how they have used lights. So the lighting is something what you have to always think as well. And me as a landscape designer, I'm most of the time when I design something, I design my own lighting to garden as well. Because then I know what I would like to bring out, maybe tree or building or climbers, as well thinking the safety. How when the people enter the area, how they feel. Because that is the big question for the public parks. Do you feel safe when you are there? Would you like to go pass through the parks evening time or in winter time? So things like that, where you have to always think when you are designing big public areas as well. This was quite interesting once again. I'm very delighted to see that this type of designs have been brought up to this panel, this talk, because quite often, unfortunately, sport areas are very boring. Aesthetically, they are not quite often thought at all. They are just something very macho, you have to get nearby car there, or there is, all these sport facilities. But having seen this, that it's linked to landscape design and sport together, is very, very good. And I hope in the future, in London, that Professor Nigel Dunnett, he was designed these Olympic parks. So I think we are getting message through that even those type of areas can be looking good, can be inviting. So not only people who go to play football or tennis or whatever they are doing there, but other people can enjoy those areas as well. And it is a big area once again. With areas like this, from my experience, is that quite often, unfortunately, these areas, if you have their trees or shrubbery or some design, they are not maybe looked after properly. So even you could get some nice design, it's not always valued as a very important part of whole area. So regarding of that, keeping that in your mind, when I was looking through this design, I was thinking that there are some question marks which I would maybe change. The plans are very good, they would work here, but unfortunately I don't really see any plans which would support biodiversity. So maybe some of these turf areas could be changed to be meadow areas. So supporting nature or combining, maybe not only native plants, but some of, adding meadows, spring bulbs, or, these perennials together. But not only lawns, because there is a lot of lawns, so part of that, those lawns could be meadow areas as well. I love that idea that the slopes are made greener. The next picture, oh, it's coming here, you can see how boring it is at the moment. There's nothing, there's just earth and those trees. So bringing in the color, bringing in the texture is very, very good. But you have to be quite carefully how you do that, because remembering that maintenance in this type of public areas where there's a lot of plants, it can take time as well. Even they are using a lot of evergreens there, which are easier to maintain, but still have to remember the maintenance. Because when it starts looking very unkept, then it doesn't appeal to people to go and enjoy those areas anymore. And in this picture, in lower picture, you can see that there is these 3 different size of flower beds. I wouldn't do very small flower beds. In here you can see. I would make that as a one big flower bed instead. Having a grass growing between of those flower beds cause a question of maintenance. And I don't really see the reason why you would have small flower beds in this size of park anyway. So putting them together and really otherwise maybe adding some, like I say, like salix or some trees or shrubs which will support more biodiversity in the area as well. But very strong planting, very strong visual design, so that's very good. And I hope to see something like this to be built as well. Having seating areas next to flowers is always good. Having seats in public parks is very important. What I don't see in here, where you put your rubbish bins, is there more light in somewhere there? Because once again, those are questions for me as a user. When I eat my ice cream, I want to put my things nearby bin. If I don't have a bin nearby me, most of the people just would throw them away. So I don't see any of those in the design and not even mentioned in the design. But very good quality of design, very lovely to see that very different designs as well, from the rooftop gardens to these private gardens and public parks. And this garden was actually challenge for me, coming from Finland, where none of these plants would survive outside, none. They would be house plants, and most of the people would be very happy if they would grow even in the houses, because they would need extra light. We have very long, dark winters. I have to really think this garden and think this design, because it wouldn't be anything what I would do normally. Yes, I have been helping doing a tropical garden, Singapore garden at the Chelsea Flower Show, but I know that is just as a show. And I'm not sure about if these plants would survive here in Poland either. Would they be? Or would they need, So those are the questions what I was thinking, because I know that this winter you didn't have snow, but you normally have a winter, you would get the snow. So obviously the team who have designed this garden have to have a lot of knowledge of those plants. And that is one of very important thing when whatever you are designing. For me, it's not enough that you are able to create a beautiful design, beautiful picture. You really have to know your plans. You have to understand what the maintenance, what it requires on that point of view. You have to think out of the box. You have to think, who use this area as well. And the value of the money. Because if you don't have budget, yes, it's quite much easier to design, huge parks and beautiful things. But when you have a budget, well, like most of the designers, we have a budget when we design something, then it's much more difficult to create something. So unfortunately, I didn't have opportunity to talk these designers or designer who did this. But it is very different comparing anything else what we have seen here. Very, very different. And I like that. I like that challenge because whoever did this was very brave. And the structure of the garden, which is quite narrow and long, works. And if we think that there would be, and because they are very structured flower beds, it would be quite easy to maintain those as well. Having maybe more climbers would be something would add the layer to this garden. Having maybe bigger trees, it doesn't have to be all these plants, I don't really think have to be tropical plants. You can add, because if you go to tropic, you see that there's always these very big trees and there are lower trees and even smaller trees and shrubs. So I think in that sense, this garden is weak. It would need more layers, more structure, and it would really need maybe a wee bit more color for myself as well. If I think there would be a lot of gray in walls and surface and then a green, it would do as a hotel area where I would visit, but as my own garden, I would add some color. It could be seasonal as well. It doesn't have to be there all the time, but I would still like to see some layer in color and in structure as well. And when you look through this plant list in here, would they survive here? Do you know? No, they wouldn't. And on that sense, there is a question mark as well. It's very strong design, and it would be very good background for the public garden, but not really as a home garden. Or maybe person who is not spending a lot of time in the home, traveling a lot, business person who doesn't want to do anything in garden. But it's for me, it's not my type of garden, but I do understand that type of gardens we need as well. And that's the thing, if we think all of these designs, what we have seen here, that when you design something, you always have to think to whom you design that. Do they have the money and time to maintain that? Or will they have professionals to coming looking after that? Is there children? Is there pets? How much they spend time there? What they want to do there? So those are the questions what you always have to know very well when you do something. I just designed one rooftop garden and a garden for housing area. And for the building company was saying to me that they have very small budget. You have to have easy to maintain, and don't have money to really to do the garden and so on. But I was very pleased because it was good. It would have been nice. But the city, the area where it came, they came back to me and say that, yes, this is very nice, but you could do this. There was a big water feature. They say that because the grey water issue or stormwater questions are very big at the moment in Finland. So they say that, would you like to add some plants to the water feature? And I say, yes, they were in my design. But the company who wants to build this, they say that, it will take too much money and time to maintain those. But they force me. The city department say to me that add them. You have to add them. And then I could go back to building company and say, excuse me, if we want to get these houses built and this garden done, we have to add even more. So sometimes it's very good when you are closely working with cities or architects or building companies or nurseries that they make these demands for you as well. Because it seems like you are writing something, you get blind to your own ideas, you get blind to plan selection, what you quite often would use. You would, unfortunately, at least I know that there is my favorite plants which I normally would use everywhere, every garden. But not only using them, but always thinking the location of those gardens as well is important. Breaking the boundaries, visiting seminars like this, learning from more, talking to nursery people as well. I have this pin on my chest, and because this year is International Year of the Plant Health. I don't know if you have heard about that. It's a UN, it's like a team for UN, United Nations. And it was started by Finnish Minister of Agriculture and Forestry. And my Chelsea garden actually is a story about using native plants and how when we bring and when we design and use plants, we have to be very worried thinking that we don't use plants which can carry pests or diseases or which can spread in our nature and create some problems. So whenever you are designing, in here I saw a lot of these plants were native to Poland. They were, maybe grown in Germany or maybe in here. But you can always think that when I'm using plants, are they good for environmental issue point of view as well? Rosa rugosa, for example, is banned now in Finland, and cities have to remove them because they are spreading everywhere. They're spreading next to seas as well, the beaches, public beaches in some part of Finland. So that is one layer again when you are designing something. You have to think that whatever I do, is that good? Because this year's Chelsea, we have very strict rules, much stronger than before, that plants which we are using don't cause any problems for British nature. That we don't bring in the plants which we shouldn't be using anymore. We have more knowledge, we have more research done regarding of that as well. Did you get something new? Did you get some, because I love my job. It's my passion. And I'm quite lucky to be doing what I do. I can design, I can research, I can talk, and I can work together with many different type of people. And I think we are very lucky. I think most of you here should think that you are lucky, pinching yourself and thinking, yeah, this is what I do is absolutely lovely thing. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.